stuff. I just need to do something with my plug here real quick. Just give me a minute.
I just made you co-host.
My adapter won't hold the plug in place.
I need to go get an adapter for my adapter. Whoops.
Where it is. I'll be right there.
Okay. I don't know why it's stuck on yours. Let me see. What's up, everybody? As you're joining us, just come in, say hi. Let us know that you're here. We're going to get started here in just a second. You guys actually on the other side of the world right now. Can someone just type in the comment box, say hi? I don't see any comments and I just want to make sure this thing's working.
Yo, yo.
Yo.
Can you hear me?
I got you. Yeah.
Oh, I cannot hear you, but I think that's just because this isn't pushed in. There we go. Good?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Sweet. Yeah, I got you. I did not plan for the adapter not to be able to hold the Apple charger. Falling out of the wall. That's good. I had to get the extender.
Gotcha.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I've been awake for like 20 minutes. I'm waiting for the new pep to kick in. And we'll be underway. No, I feel pretty good. I went to bed nice and early, so I got like 4 or 5 hours.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about your experience so far, travel and all that stuff to the other side of the world.
To the outskirts of the nether regions.
Uh-huh.
What can I tell you about this place? To be honest, I can't remember the last time I got somewhere and I felt culture shock.
Huh.
So this has definitely been a bit of that experience, and not like culture shock, like, oh my God, I can't believe this place. But look, Indonesia, it's got a completely different rhythm, right? It's Asian culture. I've never been around Asian cultures before. Even the moment I got to Taiwan, like I flew from British Columbia. I spent a week there, and then I got to Taiwan. And like the moment I got to Taiwan, I'm like, oh yeah, this is different. But it was cool just to be there, and it's just unique. Like I'm sure you get to Israel, and it's Jews and Israelis and Arabic culture everywhere, and it's also different for everybody. I'm sure if I went to Russia, it would also be like a period. But when you come here, so like walking on the streets is if you walk anywhere, it's going to take you forever to get anywhere. So that's not really an option. So when I got here, I'm here with my friend Larry Ostrovsky and his wife Oksana, who are good friends from San Diego, and I traveled to Colombia with them about a year and a half ago. And they got me like a moped. Now, I've never been on a motorcycle before in my entire life. I've never been on a passenger in a motorcycle before in my entire life, and not wanting, actually, quite the opposite. Like Elon and I, I think we would be huge like superbike guys if somebody had actually. Well, I remember Elon got on one. I remember you came back with a giant smile on your face, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly why I'm not going to get on one of those bikes.
It was worse than that. It was worse than that. I had just bought my car, and I then went on this ride, and I came back, and literally 2 days after buying my car, I told my dad that I was going to sell the car and go buy a motorbike.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you.
Like, fuck you, no, you're not.
Oh, there we go. Okay, can turn on my my little PC, let up my face a little bit. So it gets me a moped, and obviously it's a moped. You know, you don't assume that it's gonna go very fast, but being on a bike is a lot faster than you think. And if you've ever been to these countries, you've seen how they ride mopeds. It's like there are no street lights, there are no stop signs. It is just, you know, meh, 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 and sometimes you're going down one-way roads against traffic, and there's like that much room to fit your bike and stuff like that. And if you've never been on a bike before, or if you have been on a bike before, it doesn't matter. It's quite nerve-wracking. So like, he gets me the bike, and the gas is really jumpy. So like if you just even pull it a little bit too much, it's like boom. And so the first time I do it, the like motorcycle, I did it like out of a driveway, and the thing just like shoots off. I started giggling my ass off, but I like drive it down. I realized like this is not something I'm going to learn in like 15 seconds. I thought it was going to be like super intuitive and and it's not. So anyway, but you know, I kind of like ride around for like 5-10 minutes, and then it's like off to the races in the middle of this shitstorm. And I actually did pretty good, but you know what it reminded me of when you're first learning to drive a manual car?
Yeah.
And you know that feeling you get every time you get that traffic light where you're like, fuck. Like it's easier when there's momentum, but even like turning the bike, like you don't really turn here. You have to like turn with the lean a little bit. So there's a lot of, you know, little things to get used to. And on top of that, they drive left hand over here.
Oh my God.
So it's reverse that. So, you know, it's like, it's a lot for your brain to process at one time. So you're trying not to kill yourself. Remember like the little things here, they use their blinkers, and then like the blinking system, like the whole thing. So we get to the first place. And when we got there, I like drove a little bit past Larry. And I had to like back up maybe like 10-15 feet, but like turning the bike, the roads are thin. So you can't do like a K-turn when there's just 2 lanes of like this happening all the time, especially when you just first got on there and you're scared to like overdo the gas pedal. So I jump off the bike and I want to like wheel it back. So I kind of like wheel it back. And of course there's like all this traffic coming at you, but I'm like trying to wheel it back. And one of the times when I pull the bike back, I pull the lever at the same time and it's still on.
Oh my God.
So, and I'm not on the bike. So the bike just takes me for a ride. Like I'm basically Supermaning on the right-hand side of the bike, and it's like going directly into traffic.
Oh
and I just got lucky because at that point there was a little bit of gap in the traffic, and like a bike just stopped right in front of me when I laid the bike down. I had enough sense to like just lay the bike down. So good first lesson. So I got me a kiss. What's called a Bali kiss. That was day one, and that was great. That happened within like 2 hours here. Of course, there's like a little bit of shock and all the stuff the body does. So I was really fortunate because if there was a car there, I mean, I would have been gone right out of the car.
So what was that hit from?
That's from the ground. I like when I laid the bike down, I must have like gone down like that. And that was the day one, and that was like a good lesson in consciousness about the gas pedal. So I kind of like laughed it off, and that's just what's been so. Today I rode around all day. So today was just my second full day with it. And by the first full day with it, I was like significantly better. By today I'm fairly comfortable. And there's still like situations where it's like very unnerving. Like I found myself a few times I've gotten off the bike to go get coffee or like food, and I look down and like my hand is shaking from like the adrenaline. There's a stress response because the body's not used to that amount of overwhelmed stimulus. So like my mind is actually not that bad, but there are like little moments where it's like, you know, like little like things are happening. We went down one-way roads today like for like 25 minutes, and it's just like cars and like them trying to swerve and you're trying to swerve, and it's just really kind of about owning your territory confidently, and they go fast. I mean, we've gone like 60, 70 kilometers per hour on a moped, and they're flying around and they got babies in their hands. It's like it's just
Wow.
wild. It's wild, yeah. So that's what's been going on. So I guess we can parlay from that anyway. I'm good, and it was interesting because I thought, if I died on this thing, which by the way would be fine, not with everybody else, but I'd be okay. I was like, my soul chose this way to go out. I'm like, that's interesting. That's what I kept thinking about, is like, well, this would be my choice, my soul's choice to choose this experience to leave this body. I'm like, that would not have been my first choice. I'm like, that's interesting. Or like, why have I gotten to a point where that would have been going on? So here, I'll parlay it into something. So before anything you want to say about that?
Well, I'm just happy that you're well and alive. Obviously, getting the message from you hours after you were there was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, moped is just, I remember when I went to Spain and lived there for 4 or 5 months, there's a bunch of kids at the time that got mopeds, and literally every single one of them got hurt. One of them just had a horrible, had to be flown back to the States for crazy surgeries. Like, it's just not, when it's not, you're not prepared for that, and then you get thrown into like a lion's den of people that have been doing it since they're 11 years old.
Or younger. I see like 7, 8 years old here, like driving around.
Yeah, it's
yeah, look, you don't know their cultures, you don't know their body language. There's a lot to learn. I mean, the reason I say culture shock is because I could tell, like, it's going to take me like it would take like a month to settle down here and like really. I think Larry and Oksana have been traveling for about 1.5 years, and they said like about a month to know your way around, about 2 months to know the culture.
Wow.
And that's not, and I don't mean here. They said like anywhere you go. And I kind of have to agree with that, right? And especially when you don't speak their language and stuff like that, it always makes it more challenging. They speak English here fairly well. I mean, they're used to American tourists, I'm sure, for a long time now. Bali's beautiful. It's got its own rhythm for sure. Like, I feel like a complete tourist here. Like, I haven't felt this tourist in a while. Like, even Colombia, I kind of felt like home when you get there. But here it's like, like I feel super reliant on the two of them right now, because I don't know my way around. Google Maps doesn't work well here. And it's actually like the connection here is great, to be honest. Like, I have connection everywhere, but like Google Maps is just not accurate. And there's all these alleyways and different things to do. And again, it's like, who's going to be looking at Google Maps while you're driving on a moped? Like, you have no chance. You'd kill yourself. So, but I get that. And so what I was going to say is, there's just been like destruction around me everywhere. Like, I gotta pay for that bike too, and all this other stuff. Thank God for the tax refund this year. It's really, really picking up the slack. But I like when we came back from Colombia, I had somebody step on my laptop. That same day, somebody backed up into my Porsche when I was sitting in a convenience store and like destroyed my bumper. I had to get that fixed. Then I fixed my laptop. Tried to sell that laptop, and the day I went to go ship the laptop broke again. Then on the way over here, I left my MacBook on an airplane. I had to buy a new MacBook when I was in British Columbia, which is not awesome either, or was not awesome. And mostly not because of the laptop, because I had about 10 years worth of house music on a SD card that I don't have backed up anywhere else. So that's like raising a baby and then losing it on an airplane. And I got sick when in British Columbia. I'm still a little bit sick. So it's funny because I'm in this place in my life where none of that really changes my mood. And like, even getting sick doesn't change my mood. And what's interesting, even about getting sick, I'm going, man, this pattern has been here a long time. Like, I get sick a lot when I travel. And my story is that when weather changes quickly, I get sick. Like, when temperature changes quickly, I get sick, because I have, when I was growing up, I had pretty severe bronchitis. And I would, Elon probably remember this. I used to be attached to these machines all the time for breathing, especially in the wintertime. And it was like steroidal, like liquid. God only knows what they pumped inside of me for, I don't know, 10 years, probably 12 years, something like that. I kind of stopped doing that when I was 14. And I still get like signs of it here and there. So like I'm like susceptible to upper respiratory infections and stuff like that, or seems to be. But and all that stuff, I'm like, wow, I've just let these stories go. Like that's the way of it. So as all this stuff is happening, I'm like, and you know, I've had these patterns where like life is really good, effortless, magic's happening around me, and then like for like a short period of time, like stuff like this will happen, and it usually kind of like I'm like susceptible to being lured into like, okay, what's going on? How did this happen? You know, what changed? And it's the first time where I'm just like, huh, this is interesting. So I was like, especially around getting sick, I'm like, oh yeah, that story's got to go. It's got to fucking go. Like I prepared myself with medicine before I even got here because I'm like, I'm always like, just in case that happens.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with it. And I'm sitting here going, all right, there's stuff for me to look at that's incomplete around my emotional state with all this stuff. And even now talking about it, like I can feel my brain firing off into like a bunch of memories in Israel, like literally like interpersonal relationships in Israel.
Interesting.
Which I haven't been even aware of till I just said that. Yeah, a whole bunch of different things. I think, you know, when you travel, there's this like a stress response that I never really noticed. Because usually I travel and I feel quite good. Like I do enjoy traveling by myself. Like airplane rides and stuff are really peaceful for me. And at the same time, you come to like airports, it's like there's like all these minute stress responses, and I'm like, oh, that's what's probably making me susceptible to this kind of stuff. And just like not about getting rid of the stress response, just responding with love, not with fear.
Do you think there's also a piece of it that it's almost like anticipatory? You're like, when I travel, then you see the weather, then that it's almost like your body just goes into that default mode?
Well, you know, I would have called it like being prepared. And I guess the opposite side of being prepared is it is anticipatory. Like being prepared for what? I'm anticipating the worst. You know, I'm like planning for the worst.
Yeah.
And hoping for the best.
Huh.
So it's something to look at for sure. And it's like, all right, well, what do I need to experience for myself so that I can like, you know, actively let this go and I don't have to be at the effect of it all the time. Because I really like at home, like, well, I can't say I never get sick, but like, yeah, I need to look at sickness, like a physical sickness. It's not like I get sick a lot, especially these last few years. But there's a period when I got to San Diego, yeah, where I was getting sick, like probably some of the worst I've gotten sick in years. And my story is always the same. I'm like, it's weather based. It always starts with like breathing stuff for me, and then it kind of like parlays into a whole bunch of other shit.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if almost like, you know, for example, that I can use is with my knee.
Yeah.
If you feel a sensation, and then you add your thing to the sensation. So like for me, when I felt the knee, I was like, oh,
here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Yep.
Instead of just be like, oh, that's interesting sensation, and then turning that into, well, this is my body building my 22-year-old knee and all this kind of stuff. You know, I was talking to Leon this weekend, and I actually realized that it went even further. When I was reading that book, You Are the Placebo, I would sit in the car and I would almost wait. Like my knee wasn't hurting. And I'd be like, at what point is my knee going to hurt? Because it used to be like an hour and a half. And then it went down to an hour, then it was 45 minutes. Then I would feel it in like 15, 20 minutes. So I would literally sit in the car. I could sit in the car for like 10, 15 minutes. And I'd be like, all right, when are you going to start hurting?
Wow.
So then as I was reading You Are the Placebo, I think that's when I started to realize that I'm literally just waiting for pain. I'm actually telling my brain like, oh, send me pain signals.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there's something in there about that.
Well, yeah, it's funny because it's always the same patterning for me, which is why it's like, oh, I know what's happening right now, and you probably are self-perpetuating and creating the situation. Like,
sure,
it was like Wednesday, we had just gotten off of like 5 hours of calls or something, and I was fine, like I was great, and then I was about to go out and grab some dinner, and I feel like this little tickle in my throat, and that's how it always starts for me. Like it starts with kind of like a sore throat, And by the time, like within an hour or two, I already had almost like a full-fledged, sore throat. And that's how it always goes. And then I'm like, this has got, I'm like, I'm going to kill this. So I took like a bunch of vitamin C, got some wild oregano,
Yeah.
and it held it back. The next day I had like a little bit, but it hadn't gotten worse. And that's usually a good sign for me. I'm like, okay, it means I managed it.
Yeah.
And then I went out to dinner the next night and I felt fine. And then I started getting really stuffy at dinner, like really stuffy, like very fast. So I thought I was having like a inflammatory response to something we ate, maybe like milk or some cream. And I was like, all right, this is no big deal. And then by the time I got on that airplane, I was like, I couldn't breathe basically. Like I must have blown my nose on that for the first flight like 50 times. And it's just like so much mucus. I'm like, how does the body even produce this much mucus? And it's kind of been like that for 3 days now. And overall, I would take that over anything, like I like if I had a fever, it'd be way worse. And funny enough, the last time I've had this exact response was last time I was in Colombia with Larry and Ixana.
Ha!
Yeah. Like the last time I got sick exactly this way was in Colombia with Larry and Ixana. And interestingly enough, I didn't get sick this way when we went to Colombia or Costa Rica.
And we were also there for 2 weeks at that point.
A long time. And I mean, part of it could be medicine. I mean, look, I believe, again, like you said, it's a Joe Dispenza. We are the placebo. There's something about my body creating that because of the environment, or choosing to create that because of the environment. And yeah, I'm like kind of done with that. So, just to kind of like give people my take on it. I'm not trying to defeat this. That would be stupid because I've been trying to defeat it my whole life. Defeating it is like, let me overcome it. Let me prepare for it. I'm like, how do I love this? So part of the interesting thing is that this time I have no resistance to it. I'm not at war with it. I'm not at ends with it. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I love it anyway. I love myself anyway. I don't make myself wrong. I don't make the environment wrong. I don't make the circumstances wrong. And I catch my brain trying to create the next connection. Like over here, there's a lot of mopeds. And because of that, you're like kind of sucking in, CO2. And I feel my brain like, oh, that's going to make it worse. I'm like, mm-mm.
Interesting.
Still a human brain, always looking for the next thing to tie to it, the next story to tie to the story. So next time it's like I can go to a different country and like, it's going to see like dirty skies, be like, oh, we're going to get sick, and it's going to create that response. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that response.
Yeah.
So that's what we got.
Yeah, it was. Leon and I were talking this weekend, and he was telling me about something. He hurt his calf, and it's like now every time he's been playing tennis, it hurts. So we were just talking about how we don't notice a body part until it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I definitely took away from Colombia is being grateful and thankful for health, and being grateful and thankful for certain body parts and things. So I remember this one moment where I was literally like scanning my body, and I was just thinking like, in this wrist, like right here, there's all these tendons and ligaments and nano muscles and things like that I've never felt hurt or anything like that. And they help me move my hand and rotate and lift and turn and do all of these things. And you never even notice them. You never thank them. You never do anything. It's just like, oh, this is just how it's supposed to work. When in fact, it's a miracle that it does. And it does all these amazing things. So we were just talking about how the conversation, and I'm assuming this is around the world, but it definitely is in the States, about here's how people say it. They say, worry about your health, right? Like, worry about your health. He said it and I just resonated. I was like, that is the worst languaging for health. Innate in the health is worry. That doesn't make any sense. How about create health, be grateful for health, be health, like think healthy thoughts. Don't worry about your health.
Create health.
Say it again.
Create health.
Create health. Yeah, that's what I said. Be health. So one of the things that I do, especially when I go to bed at night, is just talk to my cells, be thankful for my cells, my muscles, my body, my flexibility, my speed. Like, I'm just thanking it so that it knows. And it's made a huge difference.
I was watching a show on Gaia TV with these guys. You know Gaia?
Yeah.
Greg Braden, who's got a show called Missing Links, and he's talking about the quantum fields and all that kind of stuff. And then this is not new. It just for whatever reason was like a very straightforward contextualization of like the quantum field. And most of us, when we're creating something, you're saying like, may I have, or wouldn't it be nice, or please bring this to me. But when you say that, the energy signature of that is the acknowledgement that it's not there.
Yeah.
So you're creating more of it's not there. Like the universe doesn't understand languaging per se. It understands vibrational frequency. And it means you're sitting in the vibration that it's not there, wanting it. And the mind perceives as there's some linear thing that needs to happen, like in causality, to get there. And I think that's the big mistake that most people are making with their manifestation is you actually have to sit inside of that it's already here. Almost like as if you're looking back at it almost. And
so
then
what's the languaging?
You just think it, like you just said. That's what brought up for me. Is like having gratitude, like it's already here.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be well, and this is even coaching for me right now, it's not like, hey, how do I get well? Or please make me well, because that's the acknowledgement of that you're not.
Yeah.
It's thinking it as if you already are. Right? Like I'm in the energy signature. Because guys, when we have something and you take a moment to get present, you're super grateful for it. But you're grateful for it because you have it. And that has an energy signature. And then if it like time has passed and you're looking back at that thing and you're like, wow, so I'm so thankful that happened. That's the next level energy signature of that. And usually when you look back at stuff, it's because you're like, I don't know why that was ever hard, but it's easy now. And you don't even know why it's easy now, whether it's because you practice something for a long period of time or whether that circumstance passed, like, challenges and opportunities, they allow us to start vibrating at a different frequency. If you allow yourself to feel that thing, you'll have it. And most of you guys are going, well, I can do that. Great. If you want to do that, then you're doing it wrong already. And B, it's not just that. It's noticing what pops up the moment you start using language like that. That's getting in the way of truly feeling nothing. So what I notice around like stuff breaking, and this is not new for me. Like there's just periods of stuff that like breaks or gets lost like consistently throughout my life. What I noticed this time is that, I've been wanting to notice lower tier, not like lower tier, like less quality, just like there's like the energy signature on top. And just like when you ask somebody like what's wrong and they give you like their knee-jerk reaction and then you start digging, there's like all these layers to it. And then like eventually it's like you actually find the core issue. With energy, it's the same thing. You have like the energy signature that you're most aware of, and then there's like all the underlying like more and more subtle energy signatures. And my request has been training around seeing these like lower tier energy signatures. Mm-hmm. Again, it's like, what does God give you? Not it's like, here, notice these. It's like opportunities to notice these, right? So what I noticed is like there was like stuff in my love life and relationships that is like causing me frustration that I must have not been expressing fully. And it occurred like a sadness and like wanting to break something. Mm. And I experienced a sadness. I didn't break anything though. And that might have been exactly what I needed to do, is like grab a baseball bat and hit like a pillow or something, or go outside and like rage a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, if I don't express it, it's going to get expressed. Hmm. And I could be making that up, but even so, it's like, there's a pattern here for me to look at. And it's like, breaking is going to get expressed. Either I'm going to break stuff or it's going to get broken. The world looks for homeostasis, or the universe is wanting homeostasis. So that's my guess. And it's really something for me to look at, though, when I get upset, is that I actually go and I'm all fire. Like my astrological signal is like 90% fire. I burn through shit. I'm good at rage. That's what I do. And I remember so my phone also broke. I forgot to mention that one. And it must have fallen like an inch, but it felt like on a hard surface around the corner. And I actually caught it. And I was like, up. Like I juggled it and caught it. And I was like, yeah, no, And then right when that happened, I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, I was about to get upset, and I was like, we're not going to do that. And I realized, like, that's too spiritual for my own good. Spirituality is not like overcoming the humanity; it's seeing the humanity and then just seeing the humanity. Like just observing it. And there was definitely a moment there where I'm like, I didn't let myself feel the anger from the phone breaking, or from really any of that stuff happening. To be perfectly honest, like the guy stepped on my computer, I was like, too spiritual. Like car gets dented, too spiritual. And it's like I think that I it's something for me to look at. I'm not sure that I want to stop that. It's looking at feel that anger fully and then come back. Not just like, oh, that's a story. I don't need to deal with that. I'm too fucking bougie, like spiritual bougie, like luxury bougie, that I won't have that experience anymore. I'm like, that could be what's not working. I swung the pendulum too far to spiritual instead of finding the balance in between, which is like, I'm fucking angry and I'm back to being peaceful. Like, I think that's kind of, I think, where I want my practice to go right now.
What's coming up for me as you say that is that in the allowing of the anger, you're basically giving up a span of at least an hour to 2 hours of your life in the anger, because the physical, like what will happen in the body physiologically from a chemical perspective, is that your body's going to be hijacked for like an hour or two. You can't just allow anger and not have the physical reaction of anger.
Well, I want to point out, like, so you just created that story that it needs to take a long period of time.
Well, no, I'm saying you could feel angry. I'm just saying that when you let anger go, like and anything, you're going to dump a whole bunch of chemicals associated with anger in your physiology. That's not up to you. That's just it works.
I get that. Look, something is peering up from the subconscious as an experience. Like when you meditate, people have sensations that are not enjoyable. You can't go, oh, well, I'm not going to express this through my body while I meditate because I don't want to feel negative things while I meditate, or quote unquote negative things. I would still go back to, I think you created a story around that, because part of it is looking at what's the practice of noticing anger and still sitting in a love state at the same time.
That's a different story.
Yeah, so I'm not saying like I want to be angry. I'm saying I want to notice my anger and not sidestep it to be like, I'm too good to feel that now. Or I've got too much training to feel that now, because that's a story. Like I have for sure, like I'm too trained for this. And sometimes when I get upset that I'm getting upset because I think I'm too trained for this. And that doesn't work. Yeah. So it's like, look, if this was transformed, this wouldn't be showing up anymore. And yet it does continue to show up. So it's like, the things I look at, what is it that I haven't been? I haven't been peaceful. I haven't loved it, right? Which we know doesn't work. So it's like, okay, well, how do I notice anger, still keep my heart open and be in a loving gratitude space while any emotion is there, and just shoot that high vibration at it? It's like, hey, little boy, it's okay right now to kind of stomp your feet and get a little bit angry. Not like, hey, little boy, you don't get to get angry. Go back to your fucking room, basically, which.
Yeah. That's a different distinction. So I just wanted to make sure that people kind of hear that, not as in I'm going to go and, go break a bat or go beat some shit up for the sake of beating shit up. It's I'm going to allow this experience to be the experience.
Yeah.
And fully interact with the experience. And I would add that the thing that you just added now is without judgment of it.
Yeah.
Not like this is good, not this is bad. I think being a dad, you get to see, or being a parent, I should say, you get to see this a lot. So Leon and I were sitting, and we're in the TV room, and we put the kids down at around 7:30, and at 9, Ethan, his son, walks downstairs and he's crying, like full on crying. And he finds us in the TV room. And I think where typically the reaction would be, what are you doing down here? What are you doing out of bed? Leon, we were just in this state. It was so amazing and so perfect because we were exactly talking about kids and how grateful we are and being parents and lessons and how we're learning and this and that. And he just happened to walk down, and Leon's reaction wasn't like, what are you doing down here? It was like, oh man, why are you crying, little dude?
Yeah.
He's like, I can't sleep. Like, he's like, Shai's been sleeping for 2 hours and I can't sleep. And he's like, oh, well, come on. And he just stood up, gave him a big hug, took him. He's like, well, let's do our routine from home. So he took him to the bathroom, put him upstairs. And like, we had this moment. And we're like, well, you know, when you go upstairs, you're going to get to dream. What do you want to dream about? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, Ethan, what's your favorite thing in the world? He's like, hockey? I was like, well, dream about the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup and like spinning, holding it up and this and that. And all of a sudden you look at him and he's just smiling ear to ear.
Yeah.
And he went upstairs and we were just it. And then I told Leon the same thing about how inside of us there is that little boy, and that little boy is always reacting, and how much more. I actually pointed out to him, I was like, notice how much more effective and how quickly everything was diffused because you came from it with love.
Yeah.
Versus, what are you doing down here?
Yep. No resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to go back to what you were saying before. You know, look, everything can be done consciously. Anger can be expressed extremely consciously. Like I did subconscious reprogramming work with Barry, what was it, like 3 years ago now, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. That's a lot of what it was. It was like doing, like, at least that's what it was for me. Like I was doing a lot of really like physical, masculine things because you need to connect the systems together. You know, it's one thing to rage and lose your mind where it's got a hold of you. We say like, you know, it's having you versus you having it. It's another thing for you to say, hey, I'm choosing to have this experience and it needs to express itself or I'm wanting it to express itself so that I get to transmute it. Because how often do we get angry and like while it's happening, we're like stuffing it down. Like I spent years having fear around getting angry because it was destructive. Like I would lose relationships and all sorts of things that would happen that were always negative in my experience. Like I've never gotten angry at somebody and been pleased at the same time or gotten the result that I wanted with that person. In fact, I'm always a person that comes to apologize later and with my tail between my legs because I feel like a fucking asshole. And it took me years to, I don't want to say the word overcome because I didn't overcome my anger. I just created peace with it. Yeah. So now it's again, like, what are the energy signatures beneath it? Like the subtle things that aren't explosive anger, and yet there's still anger that wants to express itself and I'm not allowing for it. And it's like, no, I want to transmute all of it, and transmuting just looks like loving more of that stuff and loving the stress response and, you know, loving the moments where I don't quite feel like I'm fitting in. You know, it's like you get here and because you don't fit into the culture, like you have this like response of like, I just don't fit in. So like I found my voice kind of like the volume going down the last few days and not really getting involved in conversations the way that I normally would and stuff like that. And just, you know, there's just a parlay of a whole bunch of different stuff that's going on. And it's like, no, I power, freedom, and full self-expression in every moment. So it's been great. You know, I really get to look at that and then like, what do I get to have or what do I get to choose because of this experience? Yeah.
One of the things that's really worked out well for me is in those moments of upset or frustration, I don't generally get angry, but I definitely get disappointed and upset and frustrated. Two things. One, I allow it and I give it a deadline. So like I actually say, you have till X time. So if it's like 3:39 now, I'd be like, all right, you have till 4 p.m. to be as frustrated and upset and let it all out. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is to actually have an inquiry of why the upset got triggered in the first place. And I think we've spoken about this before, about how when you ask someone like what's upsetting them, the first thing that they say is never the thing that's actually upsetting them. It's usually like 2 or 3 after that.
I can't say never, but rarely.
Yeah, rarely. So I've noticed that for me, it's also the same. You know, like the whole thing with the tax issue that came up and how frustrated I got and this and that. And it had nothing to do, you know, the first thing was like, I have to deal with this nonsense, which is like part of it, but it wasn't it. And then the next level deep was that this took away my time. That was getting there more often. And the underlying thing of all of it was that I had to deal with a stupid issue instead of working on something that I'm passionate about and loving, and creating and all that stuff. And then that parlayed into, well, I get frustrated when anything that I describe as stupid, whether it's people or situations or whatever. And that was this like haha moment for me. Like, oh, wow, I am judgy. I'm judgy of other people. I'm judgy of circumstances. And when I deem this blanket statement of this is stupid or you're stupid or whatever, I have this whole reaction. So if I'm discussing this with my kid, right now, there could be this conversation like, well, why is that situation stupid? Or why is that person stupid? Right? Who gets to say that? Because in their world, like say someone's doing something, and this is something that I'm putting into practice more and more, that everything, just like in meditation, is perfect. So every way that someone bees, every situation that bees is perfect. It is perfect and perfect for you to experience that in its perfection. And again, just with kids, it's so interesting. You know what I saw in me and in Leon this weekend, because we were doing daddy daycare, so there were no women, so it was just like us. What I saw is that I would venture to say that 80%, if not more, of your reactions to your kids stem from, and I would say that it's not just to your kids, this is just reactions, stem from how your parents reacted to you.
Sure.
So like I see Alex Ferdinand come out of me, just like I saw, you know, Leon's dad come out of him. And it's that first reaction is just that old programming of this is how you react. And now there's this space which goes, do I choose to be a father in that way? Do I choose to react and respond in this way? Is this how I choose to show up as a father? And it's been interesting to kind of play with it. Especially because Aaliyah and Shia respond to 2 totally different ways of parenting. Whereas I think you and I, especially with Dad at the time when we were younger, it was like he had 1 gear and 1 gear only, and that's how he responded. So
it's like one dating strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So just it's interesting to play with that and see how that shows up. So it was really, really present for me this weekend.
Yeah, so I just want to go back to something you said. It's funny because in the past I would have agreed with you completely, and it's not about like right or wrong here. It just something that I noticed, like when you're like, well, I give myself a timeline, and you know, if it's 3:30, I tell myself I can be upset till 4. I don't buy that anymore. Emotion's going to take however long an emotion takes. Like if your son is upset, are you going to say, hey, you got 15 minutes, go to town, and then fuck off, like get your shit together? And I know you guys have like the whole turn it around thing, and I love that. And I'm not saying like not to have that as an intention set, And if that becomes the expectation and like 4 hits and now you're not out of the woods yet, and now you're upset that you're not out of the woods yet, you create another circumstance for you to just create more upset and then get into your funk. Like, look, as far as humans are concerned, it's not like we have a mechanical duty to anything. We weren't biologically put here to like be on schedule and make sure you make that call or that business meeting. Fuck, I'm in Bali. Trust me, they don't give a fuck about that kind of stuff. Right. So it's like, and Spain and all these other places. So it's like, are we like, that's an American thing, the capitalism, like they don't know the first thing about business here. Like it's so funny. You look everywhere and you're like, the things that they don't notice because it's not a capitalistic society. And then as an American, of course, you notice everything, and they don't get this right, they don't get that right. And, I like watch people get upset. I'm like, for me, it's like, how do you get upset about stuff like that? It doesn't even concern me. I'm like, yeah, like you want them to be an American. They grew up on an island that's 4x4, I have no expectation of their performance in like any sort of American way. So, and they seem to, and this is super like, going to come out judgy. I don't mean it that way. Okay, let's just say it this way. They have an alternate way of receiving empathy, which doesn't seem to, they just don't have much. They don't understand. So they just like smile when like Americans would be empathetic. Like here, they don't get it. So at least that's what I've been told, and I've kind of seen hints of that here and there. So, and again, that's just creating a story and something to be upset about. And whoever told me that, also gets upset about it. I don't want to create that story because I'm like, that story creates upset. Like, I'm not interested in that story. So, what was my point here? I had a point.
You were talking about the time limit.
Oh, yeah. So, look, an emotion is an emotion is an emotion. I sure have an intention of like releasing it. And I think that would be it. And however long that would take. If I'm upset or I need to have an expression of upset and there's something to do for work, how am I going to show up if I'm upset? And it's like, all right, well, it's time to do work, and I'm completely upset, like getting on a coaching call that way. And of course, I would do clearing exercises with you. Like I would work the things that I know that work. And like a child is going to be upset till a child is no longer upset. Which is how it goes.
I actually had a experience today where, for me, I'm always striving to be as effective as humanly possible in whatever it is that I'm doing. And I woke up this morning and I just felt off, like just off, not fully present, a little just groggy, tired, etc. And so it was like after lunchtime, and I was just slogging. And I was thinking to myself, okay, I can go take a caffeine pill and just right this ship, quote unquote. And I went upstairs to just my bedroom for a sec. And I looked at my bed and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a nap. Like, I just need to shut these jets down and just regroup. And so I took probably like a hour-long nap. And I'm usually not a napper. Naps don't, I actually wake up more groggy from them usually than not. Just listening to my body and letting that happen, and not having to try to force something or show up some way because what would it mean if I don't, or this and that. And I have to say it was a very freeing choice to just listen, hear what the body is communicating, and just take action. And I'm not kidding you, I literally laid down. I was asleep in probably 30 seconds.
Yeah, I do that once in a while too. Look, if we're claiming that just being right is what we're working on, I'm not saying, again, not making it more right, just that's what we're choosing to work on, and we only operate from inspired action. I'm not inspired when I'm angry. There's not a lot of creativity happening there. Exactly, same thing, right? And it's totally listening to your body. I do the same thing when I go to the gym. Like, everyone always asks me, like, what do you do for workouts? I'm like, I couldn't even tell you if I wanted to. Like, I go to the gym, I stand there for a minute, I key into my body, and I think about, okay, what's too sore? Like, which parts of my body am I not going to be able to really move a lot today? What feels good? Like, I just say, hey, body, like, what are we doing today? And then I run around the gym to like 20 different machines and do a bunch of different functional exercises. And Every day is, you know, some repetitious stuff, some completely new things. Sometimes I just make up something on the spot, or like crawl around, like whatever the hell the body wants to do. I'm like, great, move. It wants to move, you know, and there's energy to be moved. So I kind of feel the same way about everything. Like, I don't want to get in a coaching call when I'm upset. I rather tell the person, hey, look, something's going on right now. I need to process and love something about myself, and, you know, let's reschedule, or can you do it later? It's like they're not going to get the full value of me being there anyway if I can't show up and actually be in integrity with what I promised, which is to be in high performance, present, and available to them. And I don't like getting on calls when I have stuff going on in my life, especially when there's like just been an upset, because I know I'm not present. I'm like still in the emotional state of it. So, and I think it would be beautiful if socially there was room for that for everybody. Not, you know, like, you really don't know what's going on for somebody. You don't know if they're in a state of shock right now. You don't know if something happened, you know, for them and they're upset about something, or how they're processing it. And it's just like giving everyone fucking leeway to just be human.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. It's there's something to be said around, and it's so funny because I feel like there's been so many books written about this. We talk about this all the time. I just think the more one is in acceptance of everything exactly how it is and exactly how it isn't, life just works. And anytime that you're annoyed, anytime you're frustrated, anytime you're angry, if you just ask yourself, like, what am I not accepting right now? There's going to be something. It's either going to be something about yourself. It's going to be something about someone. It's going to be something about a situation. And it's just a great place to look at whenever. So even like just the example I was sharing right now, I didn't want to accept that I was tired. I didn't want to accept that my brain was working a little slow today. And then behind that is, right, it means something. So just my phrase that's been running me since I was a very young kid is that I'm a loser. I mean, to the point that you can call me like a fucking dickwad asshole. I'll be like, The second you're like, you're a loser, that affects me. More than that, it shows up in so many different things, right? So playing sports, competing in any way, right? So that's always there. So if I'm not at my top form, like I wanted to go work out after lunch, and everything inside my body was just going, no, like I'm going to literally push myself in ways that my body's just not ready to be pushed right now. And what came up was, come on, like, don't be that way. Like, you know, we'll get through it. You just need to move your body and all that stuff. And behind that is like that same conversation. You know, I wouldn't accept that part of me because that would mean that I'm a loser. And so as soon as you kind of start this practice, I feel like it opens up avenues of freedom and self-expression like I've never experienced before, which have been gentle and beautiful and easy. And, you know, now I feel fantastic.
Yeah, and that's like the very masculine approach, you know, like, let's do this anyway. Let's make shit happen. You're better than this. You know, for guys, like, don't be a girl, or actually that's a put down in both directions. All that kind of stuff, and none of it works except to just program false expectations. Look, I mean, we're gonna come together when we can surrender to what is so.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting. It's been an interesting few years watching like this rise of, and this is a big conversation, but I'll just say like quickly, the rise of like nationalism in the world, and the response and conservatism at the same time that we're seeing all over the place. And it's like, if you kind of, you know, put that in your own perspective of like that inner pride, or that like, I know myself, I know my culture, I know who I am. I just want you guys to notice that when we are convinced that knowing is the most important thing, we are the least joyful and the least flowy when that's happening. I don't see a lot of joy in America right now, for people who are focusing on the political arena, and just kind of what we're seeing all over the world with like this like new rise of dictatorship almost because of nationalism, because of globalization, because of these like the conservative response to that, like trying to hold on to the past. I heard Israel wants to like rebuild their temple, like the 2,000-year-old temple now, right? Like also just like this weird response to, not weird, just the response to that, that's happening all over the place. And we all need to look for ourselves. Like, we're saying we want to come together and we're creating borders. We're saying we want to come together and we're creating distinctions about cultures and stuff like that. And guys, like, the issues that we have, that we face ourselves, are the issue everybody on the planet are facing. And it's the first time in history that we have an opportunity to come together and hopefully before something major happens, like a global crisis, for us to really wake up to that. And maybe that's what's required. That would bring everybody together. It's like the problems that we have on the planet today, quote unquote, which are not really problems, are opportunities for us to grow, because we're creating that in the quantum field anyway. If we wanted to opt out of that, we could. We just have to choose together. They're global issues. The internet made everything, the globalization made everything a global issue. No one country can solve the problems that we are facing as a society right now.
Yeah.
And that's, I think the response on the other side has been nationalism. And again, it's like, I'm not trying to make this a political conversation, although that's interesting to talk about. It's like, look for yourself about where we do that to ourselves as well. Like our own nationalistic pride and who we were and how we were, and trying to get back to the things that were good and da-da-da-da-da. And unfortunately, what it does is it takes all the mystery out of life. And I think understanding, which I create a distinction from knowing, those are two different things for me. Understanding just literally sucks the joy and transformation out of life.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting to look at that's happening on a global scale also. And the same thing, like, then there's an anger response from everybody, and instead of loving more, it brings it back to, this shouldn't be, let's resist, I hate this. And then we get more of that in the world. So, it's, love is the only energy on the planet, the only energy in this universe. Everything else that we've created distinctions that are hurting us. Everything needs to come back to love and gentleness, which is so funny to hear this stuff coming out of Elon and Guy's mouth, who have been ultra masculine, do, overcome for so long. And now my perspective couldn't be any more different. And it's not to say the masculine doesn't work. I don't want to demonize masculinity at all. It absolutely has its place. Like, Elon and I built our company like that. There's only so, like, the feminine creates, and a lot of people with with their manifestation and the power of intention and magnetizing stuff for them, they just sit and they go, come on. And they don't understand the part where it's like, no, we take inspired action all the time, a lot of it. And it's still like the mental training around the masculine is like being able to show up and take action in the face of fear.
Yeah.
Just because you're like, come on, you think there's not going to be some kind of fear response coming. You need to connect both systems together, right? Like, when you step into what you love, which comes from the creative, there's still fear there, about taking that action. And if you can't act in the face of fear, like, the masculine is going to act in the face of fear. It's going to be the courageous part of you. The feminine is going to create, and it's going to bring the fierceness and the passion and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, don't think I'm demonizing the masculine thing at all. It's just, it's looking at how do we create balance in the two systems so that they can start working together. And, now we're seeing a really masculine approach again in the world. And it's like, and the feminine is rising at the same time, which is awesome, by the way, as a response to that. And, it's like finding that balance point for everybody so that we can kind of move forward with what everybody, I think, has an intention to work on.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, I'm super happy that you're well. I think that kicked off a pretty interesting conversation. Also, just want to remind people, if you want to find out more about how to join our academy, then you just head over to SatoriPrime.com/coaching. You can find out all the information around there. If you're looking for some more one-on-one coaching with us, then please just either personal message us here on Facebook or just shoot us an email. It's either Elon@SatoriPrime.com or Guy@SatoriPrime.com. and let us know how we can best serve you.
You can also go on our website. There's a little blue icon in the bottom right corner, and that goes right into our support, or even on Facebook, message us. So, yeah, and we are widely available for you. So please, if you need anything, let us know, and we'll happily have a conversation with you.
All right, everybody. Love you. Make it an amazing week.
Bye, everybody. Love you. Namaste.